we would have to, if y'all chose to have us move that, we'd definitely have to go, talk to the tech guys and see what that could do, what we could do with that. I don't have that answer right off the top of my
Okay.
head. So,
I mean, it does, just my own personal opinion, it seems like to me that
yeah.
it's pushed pretty close to those neighbors right there. And it seemed like, at a minimum, it might be more appropriate to try to bring in and insulate it into the interior of the country club's property more so it's not. But
Well, I know that, so that residence there, I know there's a pretty big wall. I'm thinking about where it's at, but there is a wall and there are trees pretty much in that area. So, I mean, and the pole's going to be slender and black. Really, after a time, just like all of them, you don't even see them anymore. So, but that's totally up to you guys.
Okay. Any other questions of the board?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. I'm
Mr. Davis?
concerned as to whether there's any dialogue between your company and the community as it relates to the opposition that I'm reading here. Have you all been in communication?
With the community itself,
Yes, sir.
I don't believe there's been a set meeting with that.
Is there a requirement, Mr. Chairman or Council, on
I don't.
interaction with the community? That the community interact with this?
This application, no, but that was going to be my suggestion after the opposition speaks, because I think they have some alternative ideas, and I think it might be best once we hear everything that we hold it over so the applicant and these neighbors can have some discussions about where else. Are there any options, alternatives within the acceptable radius for the company? The house that this gentleman spoke of right there at the corner that has a wall and trees, we have received an email from them, Kay and Mike Rogers, in opposition. So once we hear the opposition that's here, that might be a good suggestion.
Thank you, Council.
Any additional questions of the board? All right. Do we have anyone in the audience in support of the application that would like to speak at this time? All right. Those of you in opposition, for, and I guess we'll start with you. Your name and address, please.
Susan Carley, 19 Westgate Road. Is that too loud? I'm here representing the Country Club Estates Neighborhood Association. I'm the president, and I have several officers and neighbors in the immediate area, and we're here to just express our opposition to the location of it. I know it's probably needed, and I love that Jeremy brought up the radius. I would love to know what the radius is and how we can work with them to find something that's agreeable. Also spoke to the president of the board at the country club, and they're the landowners or property owners there, and they said they don't care where it goes. They really don't have an opinion there. But if we can meet with them and with Unity, we'd love to find something that's more agreeable. But driving by that every day, looking at a 35-foot pole, no one wants to do that. Talk to everyone that's in the immediate area, plus the surrounding neighbors that have to drive by it every day. It's a pretty big thoroughfare for the entire community, and especially our neighborhood, and we really just don't want it right out there in the open. If it could be hidden behind trees, I know it can't be under it, but if it could be hidden behind trees, that would be great, or another building. There aren't a lot of options on the country club, and I know that they don't want it in the middle of the golf course. So, but if we could hold it over and talk with them and meet with them, that would be great.
Okay. Any questions? All right. Do we have anyone in addition would like to speak in opposition? Okay. Once again, I'll remind the board that we have some public comments that were sent in that the staff provided us. All right. Applicant, if you have a rebuttal or anything you wish to state at this time, you got to come to the podium, please. She's got to get you on record.
Sure, understand that completely. Like I said, these were placed, with with the how everything's going to work in mind. That's why they were put where they were. If this is a, you know, if we are forced to move this to a different location, you know, we will have to do some, have to do some work on our end to figure out, you know, if that's even an option. And it may not be, but, you know, we're up for, you know, we don't want to be a hardship on anybody. So, you know, we will discuss if need be.
All right, thank you. That'll conclude our public hearing on this application. The residents and the representatives of the, the homeowners association are requesting that it be held over to give them time to speak to the applicant to see if a better location can be identified. And obviously with some technical review. With that, Chair, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for a 30-day holdover.
I have a motion to hold over 30 days. Do I have a second? The issue is if a different location is identified, we've got to make sure the 300 feet.
Okay. Part of the ordinance mimics the Federal Telecommunications Act, and it states that this type application for a Class 2 permit has to be acted on within 90 days. For this application, those 90 days expires August the 10th. Our next meeting is before that. It can be extended beyond 90 days by agreement of the applicant. So just to cover everybody's backside, can we have the applicant agree to this holdover if it extends past 90 days so that we can work out a resolution? Thank you.
Okay. Well, and a follow-up question, if the location impacts residents that were not initially notified, do we need to address that as well?
Yes, if the location changes, we will have to re-notify, and that will readjust the shot clocks that we're dealing with.
Mr. Chair, quick question. So
Yes.
were they notified 300 feet from the parcel or from the lease parcel?
That's correct. However, it's public notice, and it was included in the description specifically where on the properties these two small cells are proposed to be located. So it is only appropriate, if not exactly legally required, that we re-notify if that location changes. Because while this may satisfy one group of neighbors within the 300-foot radius of the overall piece of property, it may cause issues with others.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
But it may not. Even if they move it, it could be, the 300 can be looked at.
But we
and
have to
they
give
could
them
align.
notice.
Sure. But it wouldn't necessarily bring more people into the notification.
It would not, because the notification is from that boundary.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, my concern is that it appears that there was a stalemate between the neighborhood and the applicant. Now, we're dealing with a short fuse here, and I would hate for the community to come back and say that things were not adequately or properly done. After this meeting today, who's going to be responsible for pulling this dialogue between both sides, the community or the applicant? Applicant.
The other thing is, if a new location is proposed for this small cell, we will need that information probably by the end of the week. I'll do a double check on the calendar in order to send out new notices.
Just wanted clarity.
All right, is that doable? Okay. All right, I have a motion with a second for a 30-day holdover, trying to work within the guidelines for the FCC 90 days that you already have, clock you're working under. And if the residents will try to work out something with them more agreeable for aesthetics and, property values, whatever. All right, with that, Chair will call for the motion. Have approved. Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay. 30-day holdover is approved. All right. Application number 5, which is 6525, 3500 Halls Mill Road. The applicant will come to the podium. I'll allow everyone that was here for number 4 to exit. All right, your name and address, sir.
My name is Ben Cummings. I'm 1 Houston Street, Mobile 36606. I am the architect for the applicant. Just to give you a little background on this, this project was an addition to an existing building. It was properly permitted. Termac Construction was the contractor. I can't remember who the site contractor was. But apparently, during the course of construction, the owner made some instructions to the fence contractor on where they wanted the fence placed. That was unbeknownst to me. The fence location came to light at the end of the project when the civil engineer had to do his as-built certification, and he discovered that the fence was not where he had shown it on his drawings. So I asked the owners, why did they move the fence? The explanation that was given to me was that they wanted more room between the fence and the driveway that is in front of the addition. They have large vehicles that come and service their refrigeration equipment to, I guess, add more ammonia or whatever. The fence is at I guess the northern end does comply with the setback. But then as you go towards the south and towards the driveway, the fence is about 15 feet from the front property line. So it's 10 feet further towards the property line than it should be. From a, oh, okay, I'm sorry. From a site visibility, the fence is, I think in the notes it said like 38 feet from Halls Mill Road. A vehicle pulling out of the driveway onto Halls Mill Road, the fence does not impede their view at all. This piece of property is kind of on the outside curve of Halls Mill Road, so when you pull out, you can easily see to the left and to the right. So it does not, I guess, impede any visibility. I have looked at the considerations. The first one that says that it shall not be contrary to public interest. I can't think of what how this would affect the public at all. The vehicles that come in and out of this property are not, it's not the general public. It's, the workers that work at the ice plant. And it's because it's 38 feet from the front property line, I really don't know that the public would even realize that it is not within the building setbacks. The unnecessary hardship, I think that, the only thing I could say there is that the owner feels like they need that fence to be, far away from the asphalt drive so that the trucks, and they're large trucks, that go in there, that that the fence is far enough away that the trucks don't hit the fence. And then the spirit of the chapter, I'm not sure what to say about that.
Okay. Questions of the board?
Yes.
I hear what you're saying about the trucks running into the fence, but that would put them off of the asphalt driveway.
I agree with you.
Yeah. And it just doesn't seem to make sense why they would have taken a straight, instead of taking a straight line down the 25-foot minimum setback, just because they wanted some more space. Are you saying that the site plans on the construction drawings that were approved by the city showed the fence to be at the 25-foot setback?
Yes.
And they just did it?
And they just didn't.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know this for fact, but if you look at the location of the concrete sidewalk, it doesn't follow the property line, and I can only assume that they knew where to set the fence at the north end, and then they kind of somewhat sort of followed the distance off of the sidewalk. So there could have been some human error, in that, as well as being directed by the owner, where to place the fence.
Any additional questions? All right. Do you have anyone in the audience either in support or opposition to the application today? All right. That'll conclude our public hearing for this application. The representative stated that it was to be at a different location. I can see how it could possibly have followed the sidewalk as part of the placement. However, it was originally planned at a 25, which would have been in line with the requirements. All right, Chair, entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
This is one of those cases where, in my opinion, that always hardship is a moving target. But in this case, I just can't see any, other than, again, somebody assumed that it was within the setback, and admittedly, they just wanted more space. So it tells me that they did know where it was, and relocating a fence for that section, I don't think is that difficult, and I move for denial.
Second.
I have a motion to deny and a second. Further discussion? All those, yes.
If I may, I'm just going to alter the findings accordingly, adding, variance will be contrary to the public interest, special conditions do not exist, etc.
Correct.
Goes without saying.
Right.
Okay. I'll let you say it.
All right. I have a motion with a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The motion carries and the application is denied. All right. And we are on application 6. Boy, there's a bunch of numbers on this one. 6526, 6488, 3373, 2960, 2766, 2733, 2696, and 730. This is 2nd or 2 North Florida Street, 2504 Dolphin Street. Yes, sir.
I am Vince Lacoste with Bethel Engineering, 3233 Executive Park Circle. This application was originally granted a variance back earlier this year. Before we were involved, there was a submitted under a survey that he had done, just the existing, what was there. Then an architect was brought in, and additional design was done. And we basically wanted to reconfigure the parking to make it more efficient and to add some parking along the southwest area where a building used to exist, there adjacent to Florida Street. And even though the changes we were making were occurring outside of this residential box, the city staff confirmed that any change to even the part of the site that's not part of the residential would require coming back. And so that's why we're back here. We're not adding any new pavement. In fact, this drawing actually shows removing some in the radius in that kind of upper right-hand corner of that square, and just restriping. So the only work occurring within that R1 area is to remove some paving and restripe. The Zone B1 property, we're resurfacing what's there, we're restriping what's there, and we are adding some parking there adjacent to Florida. So one thing I'd like to note is there are no patients, even though this is medical, there are no patients that will be coming to this facility. It is administrative only. And I guess there's no end. I guess that's it. Happy to answer any questions that I can.
And you stated that some of the paving surface is being removed, so therefore floodplain review and all that's been, stormwater management's all been addressed as well.
Yes, and we have prepared a site plan to submit, after the variance, if it's approved. So yeah, all the stormwater design is done, but ultimately the building that was removed on Dolphin Street was a historic credit. And so we're putting a parking area right back where a building used to be. So there's no requirement that we provide detention.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant? Yes. All right. Mr. Milling has determined that he would probably be best to recuse himself at this time for this application, because he has some connection to possibly a license with somebody involved originally. With that, we still have 6 members present. We can continue with the application. We have the necessary number to make a motion.
There is one question I'd like to ask staff, if I can. In the report, I was looking over it this morning, and we had previous calls with staff about the need for landscape and meeting the landscape requirements. In fact, we at one time even had landscape islands on this plan, and following that call, we removed them because we were told we would not have to meet the landscape requirement. I'm reading in the report, and it says because footprints of structures have been altered by more than 50%, that it does have to come into compliance. And I don't believe the footprint has been altered by 50% because there was a smaller building than what's existing there that was removed.
You're talking about the one that was at the corner?
Yes.
As long as we have documentation to illustrate compliance, that it does not exceed 50%, we can proceed accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Once again, any questions of the board for the applicant? Okay, do we have anyone here either in support or opposition that would like to speak at this time? Okay, we have none for the record. As stated by the applicant, this was previously approved of variance, and some modifications have been made, but actually, I would state probably an improvement. They've reduced the amount of coverage. With that, that'll conclude our public hearing. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Okay, subject to
Subject
coordination
to-
with staff if there's any
Yes.
landscaping requirements. All right, have a second?
Second.
Have a second? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Jeremy, if you want to join us. All right, we're on application 6527, 5983, 4606 regarding 550 and 524 Western Drive. The applicant? Good afternoon. Your name and address, sir?
I'm the architect for the project, Tim Spafford, 1263 Lake Circle West, 36693.
Okay. And to allow a church in an I-1 light industrial area, you want to tell the board why we should consider the application? Is there anything special about the property or anything that?
The church is just interested in building a new sanctuary. So,
Okay, so they'll be building one, not occupying an existing?
the existing sanctuary will become the children's and youth area. That's my understanding.
You said existing sanctuary. Is it currently being used for church?
Yes.
What's the approximate size of this property? And the reason I ask is is it large enough for a good I-1 use?
I'm not sure what the size is, but right off the top of my head. Right now, there are two pieces of property, and it notes in the staff commentary that the application to have it re-subdivided into one property has been submitted. So, and we're not looking at using all the property for this new building and the parking for it. But as far as an industrial site,
Proceed if you had something.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Mr. Metcalf, did we find your information? You were trying to find information about the size of the property? Okay.
there's some on the east end may not be usable with it being low, but
Bless you. So, did we have a previous application for a variance on this property?
yes, in
Yes.
2015.
So we did have a previous application for a variance to use this as a,
Yes, sir. The site did have a variance granted in 2015 to allow the use of the site. At that time, there was no structural addition proposed, but they were proposing to expand the parking back towards the existing cell tower parcel site. They did obtain permits to do that work, but did not complete that work, so therefore that variance has expired. So this variance is to allow the use as it has been operating.
okay. All right, questions for the board? All right, do we have anyone here that's in opposition or support of the application today? All right, sir, if you'll have a seat. Let these folks come to the podium, please. Good afternoon, your name and address.
Roger Stanton, 6626 Red Maple Drive, Mobile.
Are you in support or opposition?
I'm in support
Okay,
of the variance.
all right. So I guess based on the applicant's initial comments that we're looking at expanding it, building another structure, and I guess parking will have to meet the requirements.
That's correct. The previous, if you don't mind turning around, I can this is more or less the previous application showing the existing building and the parking. And there was actually, still is technically, there's a lot line here. So the parking was somewhat located off-site. There is, independent of this application, a a subdivision application pending before the Planning Commission, which would put this all into one lot. The church owns both parcels now, except, of course, for the cell tower. And then here's their new proposed layout with the parking and the second building.
Okay. Any questions of the board? All right, ma'am, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't have anything to add. I'm Yvonne Stanton, 6626 Red Maple Drive, Mobile.
Okay. All right. Once again, we have no one in the audience in opposition. That'll conclude our public hearing on the application. I'm sure you don't have anything to rebuttal because they're in support, so we'll go with that.
I have a question.
Yes,
Chairman.
Margaret, is the need for a variance for this type of request, is it a safety issue as far as a variance for a church in an I-1?
Yeah, exactly. The property zoned I-1, churches aren't allowed in an I-1 district. It's set out that way in the chart of permitted uses. So in order to have a church here and to expand a church here would require a variance.
But I guess, and I understand that. I'm just thinking, like, what is the downside? Is it safety with heavy trucks and things in an industrial area? I'm just not.
So
trying
essentially,
to
you're
figure out, like,
asking, why is a church not allowed in the I-1 district or the chart?
I mean, I'm just thinking about, like, if we were to approve this, are we setting up any type of situation that would be detrimental?
Well, I would say from a general perspective, churches in an industrial park, especially, there's different types of industrial parks. You can have an I-1 park that maybe is primarily offices, but when you have the issues of a lot of large trucks, potential for speed, churches generally have families running the gamut from the elderly to small children. So I would say at its core, it would be safety and potential incompatibility.
It seems like to me in industrial areas that they would need spiritual interaction as well.
I think everyone does.
Thank you, Father Miller.
I don't think you're setting a precedent here, because if you look at, that's true. A lot of these uses, and this is why I was asking the size of this parcel, the neighboring parcels, a lot of them on Western Drive aren't really heavy industrial. You got supply companies, they're more B3, B5 uses. So I still think even if we approve this, we would still have the legal right in the future, depending on the type of industrial area, to deny.
It's quite a busy area, but I'm going to say that the hours in which the church operate are going to be quite different than most of these businesses. They'll be closed.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman. Also, that Western Drive is not just it's only industrial for a section. Okay, it is the entrance and exit to an entire residential area. Because as soon as you get to the first on Mill Street, you turn on Mill Street, there's residential all through there. So it's not just a dedicated industrial area. I think it's a little bit unique.
Yeah, the western side is the busy side during the week, and then the east side is more so office and storage, and warehouse type activity. All right. Any other comments of the board? Questions? All right. This particular location had a previous variance that expired, 2015, is my understanding? And now the applicant is back, and with some changes, they'll also do a combining of the property, the lots, depending on, I'm sure, today's vote of the board. With that, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval. No conditions other than it would be subject to the subdivision correct, Margaret? We're meeting before the planning commission approves.
Second, let's hold for
Hold on.
the staff.
Did have some recommended conditions, one of which was to get compliant with what was previously approved, dumpsters, things of that
Wouldn't that
nature.
already be in this application as far as the building plans and
It was
such?
not shown, so
But it'll
that's,
have to be.
yes, so
So compliance with all municipal codes and ordinances.
including the current codes.
Okay.
Okay.
A motion with staff's recommendation. And a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed?
And Margaret,
Motion carries.
because
I
of
would
all
say,
the recommendations,
comment
because all
that
the conditions.
we got to follow through with this one since it wasn't finished in 2015. All right, thank you. All right, we'll go to the last application. Number 8. This is 63, I believe it's 63, 50 Cottage Hill Road. All right, your name and address, sir.
Good afternoon. My name is Mason Sullivan. I'm a CPH here on behalf of Walmart. Address is 1031 23rd Street, Panama City, Florida, 32405.
Okay, you want to tell the board why we should consider this application?
Yeah, so this application is here for a sign variance for the Walmart. And the signs will be mainly directional purposes, such as for the pharmacy and the pickup area. Basically, to tell the customer, if they ordered online or pick up where that area would be to park, which would help, sway people who's actually going in and shopping and buying groceries, and also the pharmacy to direct the folks, where the drive-through is and how they need to in order to proceed with that.
Okay, and the signs that you're describing are currently not on the facility or in the parking area?
I'm sorry?
The signs are currently not there? These are in addition to what's currently on the building?
From my understanding, yes.
So you're adding
Actually,
the pharmacy-
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
I can clear up some of that. On the front elevation of the building, where they're currently proposing the pickup sign, which has been reduced to be less than 20 square feet, so that's not part of the application. But where that sign is currently, there is a pharmacy drive-through sign that has previously been granted a variance. They're wanting to replace the pharmacy drive-through sign, move that over to the side, and then put the additional pickup sign on the front. And then they're also wanting to place the pharmacy drive-through sign on the side of the building where they had requested one previously. That was denied.
Okay, so they're proposing one on the east elevation, which is,
In the south.
all right, well, let me ask.
Correct.
Let me ask the applicant this. I frequent this store more times than I wish to say. The one on the east side over the canopy is towards a residential area. It doesn't really serve any traffic. I'm not even sure why it's being requested. I mean, you obviously are being told to follow through with this, but.
Right. I mean, just for, use, folks will probably drive around the back of that Walmart trying to find the pharmacy drive-through.
It's all service on the backside. It's all deliveries. That whole complex is.
Right. But, yeah.
I can see the front possibly moving over and all that where the drive-through is. The pickup. Is there any change to the other existing brand sign, Walmart sign?
There are some other signage changes being made, but this is the only one that requires a variance.
Okay. Yeah, I've watched all the renovations of the facility for, I guess, a couple of months now. All right. Any questions of the board for the applicant? All right. And based on the audience, or absence of, I would say we have no one either in support or opposition. All right. Any other comments before I call for a vote of the board? Sir, do you have any other comments?
No, sir.
Okay. With that, we'll conclude the public hearing on this application. I'll still state that I don't see a need for the east elevation signage. With that, I would recommend we deny that, but all other aspects of the application, I would be in support. All right? I'm just making a comment. I'll still defer to the other members to make the motion. Chair, entertain a motion.
Sure, motion to deny.
All right. What are we denying? Hold on.
Go ahead, Mr. Carroll.
The location of the sign facing the residential area.
Okay, so deny the one on the east side, but approve the one facing the parking lot.
Okay, I thought it was only one.
No, sir, there's two. There's one that's on the east canopy. Here, let me, whoops.
Ms. Carroll, if you'll rescind your motion, and then we'll start again.
Rescind.
Okay. The one in question, it would be here. See that canopy? That's the east side. That's the one that the board denied last time that I believe the chairman is concerned about again. And then what needs a variance now is one on the front, which faces the parking lot.
So, Mr. Chairman, do we need a combined motion, or should we separate?
We just need to start. The motion can be to approve the
You can
one
come back.
on the Cottage Hill
Okay,
south face and to deny the one on the east.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the sign facing the Cottage Hill area and deny the east facing sign.
All right. Thank you. Have a motion with a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right. Thank you for waiting through all this earlier applications. All right, Mr. Anderson, do we have any business today? All right, anything from staff? All right, that concludes our meeting today. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Scott. And Ms. James. Thank you, everyone.